Today I want to talk about losses and gains, and this sermon comes in part as a result of sharing friendship with an individual. That individual was John Raina. I asked you to pray for him last week because his health been in the hospital. And then last week after services in Modesto, I left and visited with him in the hospital around 5:20, and the nurses didn't want to let me in. And I said, well, really, I do want to see him. And they said, well, he wants to sleep. And I said, well, I'll only be there a brief while. And after some kind of persisting, they let me in. The doctor was there, and he was just leaving. I asked about how he was doing. And again, the nurse was saying, well, he really wants to sleep. And I said to him, well, you know me. And I said, well, I'm his pastor. If anybody can put him to sleep, I can. And it won't take me long. And I can only spend a couple minutes with him. And so I did, and spent some time with John, and prayed with John. And of course, at that particular moment, he was tired, and he recognized that. But so when I got home that evening, and by 8:15, John had died. John had passed away. And in all of that, I personally felt quite a loss. I felt like, well, I not lost a friend, I lost a brother, and but I realized that he had suffered through things, but there was hope that he would improve. The reality that we all face is that we have losses in our life, and I think that what I want to cover today is something to help us all with a reality. The reality is we all are going to die. And the reality is we all have losses. And I kind of have jokingly said, until Austin showed up here and the like, I was going to outlive all of you, and so I'd be able to do your funeral services, I guess, except for Gisette too, and the like, and my wife. But so I kind of, and I'm going to outlive Richard too, because he's going to have a coronary one day, and the like. But so I jokingly, but as all the years, and it's like 48 years in which I've been being a pastor and doing services and doing funerals and all of that, losses, like I say, are part of that, and they are painful. Now, this isn't about me. We have a wife here, we have children, we have grandchildren, and the like. But I hope that maybe we can get some insight into terms of losses and gains. So here are the questions I kind of want us to look at today. Is loss permanent? Because when we tend to think about losses, are they permanent or are they temporary? And if they're temporary, how are they temporary, and what is the difference? If they're permanent, in which ways are they permanent? Then another question, which may seem like, well, this is kind of an oxymoron type of question: does loss have any value? Does loss have any value? And then another question is, are there gains in losses? Think, well, not only do they have value, but are there gains in losses? And then another question is, does loss stand alone? It's loss is loss, and that's it. There's nothing else to that. Can we recover from loss? Is a question. And then, are losses equal to gains? Now, I'm going to explain that a little bit later as we go through that, because it may seem like losses equal to gains. If you lost $5 and you found $5, are they the same? Are they equal? But what I want to focus on is what the Apostle Paul had to say, because he's going to cover both losses and gains. And we're going to start with losses, because we tend to feel as if we have more losses than we do have gains. Then as we grow older, we also begin to have some losses that we can't do anything about. Our eyesight may not be as well, our hearing, our taste, or, our touch. We lose excitement, the ability to be hopeful. All of those things can come about in our lives. But our focus today is going to be on Philippians chapter 3, verse 7 and 8, where the Apostle Paul says, "But whatever was to my profit, I now consider loss for the sake of Christ. What is more, I consider everything a loss compared to the surpassing greatness of knowing Christ Jesus my Lord, for whose sake I have lost all things. I consider them as rubbish, that I may gain Christ." Those two verses here, in writing to the church of Philippi, are packed with information that I believe is very helpful for all of us. So, if you would think about, well, what has to this point been my greatest loss? Or losses, things that you have lost in your life, and how you dealt with them, or how you are still dealing with them. Because oftentimes losses, they carry on, and they can carry on forever. Now, Esau lost his birthright, and in that loss, Esau became bitter in that loss, and he basically stayed bitter the rest of his life. We have losses. We also could go there as well. We could become very bitter, and we, again, find loss of life, enjoyment of life because of that. And then sometimes those losses are severe, almost catastrophic, and debilitating. There are people who have losses, and then they have never recovered from those losses. From those losses, they have become so depressed that they cannot do anything. They become paralyzed in life. And when we think about losses that are core to our lives, that anchor our lives, such as I've heard people say, when we think about mates, spouses, or children, they are my everything. They are everything to my life, and when I lost them, I lost everything. Or there are things, possessions that we might have where we lose them. There are also beliefs and ideas where we lose them, and the Apostle Paul is actually going to cover that when he talks about what he has lost in that regard, where we have core beliefs, and those core beliefs are changed, and they have been kind of how we identify ourselves. So there's a change there. And there are losses of our sense of security, those things that make us feel secure. And in terms of security, the things that we lost could be finances, can be health, can be a number of things that give us a loss there. Some losses are not of our own choosing. And I'm going to lose my phone here. So some losses are not of our own choosing. For example, if you're in a car accident that somebody else caused, but you lose an arm or a leg, or you lose your mobility or whatever, they're not of our own choosing. So we do have some losses. You might think even in terms of relationships. I would like to have continued this relationship, but that person no longer wants to have a relationship with me, and therefore it's a huge loss. And then losses in things that we've devoted time, talent, heart, and soul to are treasures. Losses that leave us emotionally, financially, spiritually bankrupt. Sometimes when people have a loss, when we talk about being spiritually bankrupt, they may say, because of that, I no longer believe in God. If there was a God, He would never allow this to happen. And so we become kind of spiritually bankrupt, and we become very hostile towards God as well.
Feeling the blues today, or tired of life already? Do you have questions about life, or need spiritual advice? The Worldwide Church of God is located in Fairfield, Santa Rosa, and Modesto, California. We welcome everyone to attend our worship services with us every week at the times listed on your screen.